Hello everyone, my name is Pixelriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Today I'm starting off here relaxing on the terrace of my cat cafe, enjoying the company of all of these fine felines, and there is one thing I want to do before we get on with today's episode, and that's to come down here with this name tag and officially name tag this cat Jelly. And as for the names of the other cats, I would like you guys to suggest some in the comments of this video. We have another Jelly over here who could also be named Jelly, but we could always give each of these cats an individual name, and I thought it'd be a great idea to let you guys name some of them, considering we've adopted at least 12. There are a couple around the place. Most of them are out the front here, and they're all different varieties and so forth, but there are a couple of duplicates that I brought back with me anyway, and there are even a couple out here who are using the litter boxes, end up using diorite slabs there as well. But yeah, we have 3 out here, we have 1 in here who still needs a name, 2 up there on the terrace, and then out here we have probably like 7 or 8. So we need at least 10 good cat names from you guys. Don't let me down, I'm pretty sure you guys can handle that. But today I'm going to turn my attention back to villagers, because I have a pretty large collection of villagers over at this trading hall that's been up here in my industrial district since the 1.13 days, and now in 1.14 villagers have undergone a couple of changes, and that means that a lot of these villagers have now lost their professions. They are unable to get new professions right now as well, which is a little bit weird, but we'll go into exactly why in a second. Oh boy, the noises. I'm going to have to turn down my friendly creature sounds. There we go, now I can hear myself think. And recently I placed a cartography table in front of this cartographer in the hope that he was going to restock his trades, and it turns out that he can't, and thanks to a bit of experimentation, a couple of videos, and some helpful people in the comments, I now understand why. When we moved each of these villagers into this trading hall, we actually kept them inside these minecarts. And for a start, that is now a mistake when you're doing this in 1.14. You should probably not keep these villagers trapped, because part of their routine requires them to wander around a little bit. I'll go into exactly what the parameters of that are in a second, but having villagers confined to only one space is antithetical to the idea of them coming back to their workstation and refilling their trades. If you trap them in a minecart, they won't be able to do that. So, first step, get rid of the minecarts. Secondly, villagers need at least 2 blocks worth of space to travel back and forth to their workstation in order to restock their trades. It's weird, but they need to be able to walk away and then walk back in order for that to activate. So even if this cartographer was not in a minecart, he's only in a 1 block wide space here. He would be unable to walk away from his cartography table and then walk back to it to refresh his trades. For a good example of how this actually works, we need look no further than the farmhouse in here, because of course we have these 2 guys trapped in minecarts, and their trades over here would probably be locked after a little while as well. But Mendelssohn up here has been able to refresh his trades. I've traded with him a couple of times, getting some bookshelves and glass and that kind of stuff. Traded a couple more mending books from him just to check that that still worked. And because he has a 2 block space here, there's only a torch behind him, and there is a trap door behind him, which means technically he can't walk into that space, but he thinks he can. And just because technically the villager AI allows him to pathfind back and forth into that space, even if he can't actually move there, that allows him to walk away, in theory, from his workstation, and then come back to the lectern and refresh his trades. So, thanks to a little bit of research and a video by Impulse SV on the Hermitcraft server, who did a little bit of looking into the villager trading mechanics and how he could adapt his own trading hall to suit the 1.14 mechanics better, I've come up with a pretty straightforward solution to fixing my trading hall, which doesn't really require us to do all that much. First of all, we're going to need a lot more of these trapdoors. They don't need to be dark oak trapdoors, but those are the ones I've already used over here at the trading hall, and they're the ones that I have in greatest supply right now. They're also nice and easy to make if I need a few more, because we're going to need 2 trapdoors per villager here. The trapdoors are kind of the key to this whole thing, because as we've discussed in previous episodes, they're a block that most mobs think they can pathfind over. If they get blocked by a trapdoor, they are still in theory, in their sort of like AI calculations, they are figuring out that they can walk over that. So I'm going to use some of these unemployed villagers over here as test subjects, because there's a couple of things we need to do, and we need to do them very, very carefully. First, to make sure that these villagers don't end up getting injured, but also so that we don't end up hitting the villagers, because unfortunately, villagers have a very good memory and they gossip a lot, and if you end up hitting a villager, that counts as negative gossip, and that means that they will spread that gossip to all of the other villagers, and then each of them are going to raise their trading prices. So hitting a villager is one of the worst things you can do as far as trading goes in this update. Now, I'm going to try this very, very carefully. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to affect them breaking them out of the minecarts, because occasionally entities can leap to the side and they choose like a different valid block to kind of step back out onto. But what we're going to do is take out this item frame, remove the block from above him, and hopefully he shouldn't be able to come over this trapdoor, but I'm going to close the trapdoor just in case. I'm going to take this block out like so. I'm going to place a trapdoor above him there and another one there. And then we can fold that one up, and that space is now not valid for spawning anything, of course, because it's less than a block, and also stuff doesn't typically spawn in a 1 block high space. And now these trapdoors should technically be tricking him into thinking that he can walk out of this space and on top of this block. We could remove this trapdoor as an example, but I'm not going to do that yet. Now I need to go and grab myself a workstation, so bear with me while I go and do that. Also going to sleep, because apparently there are a lot of creepers and spiders out tonight. And the next step is going to be to get this villager out of his minecart and replace this lighting block here with a workstation that he can use. So this is going to be a little bit of a tricky operation. We're going to break this redstone lamp first, pick that up and put it in our inventory, and then we need to take this villager out of the minecart. As I said before, this is a bit of a risky business. I don't know if getting out of the minecart is actually going to transport him into one of the blocks around here. I haven't tested every single location in this trading hall, even though I did a couple of tests on some guys at the back there in a creative test copy of this world. I did not try these ones on the sides. So hopefully he's going to stay in the position he's in right now, but in theory, he could end up warping out, and then we need to get him back into that space. So that could be a little bit difficult. But for now, we need to target an area of the minecart that he is not standing in and dispatch it very, very quickly. So you see this corner over here? We're probably going to be aiming for that corner and try and avoid aiming into the villager's hitbox so we don't end up hitting him as well. It is important that you do not use a sword for this, if you're on Java Edition at least, because swords have that sweep attack. Even without the sweeping edge enchantment, they can have a sweep attack, and if you're standing still or crouching, it is more likely that that happens. So you need to make sure that you're not doing that, because as well as hitting the minecart, you would end up hitting the villager, and that's when that negativity starts to spread. So hopefully, by just tapping this with an axe... Yes, there we go, and he stayed in the spot. Fantastic. Now all we need to do is pop down a composter here, and hopefully, yes, he's turned into a farmer. He's accepted the profession. Fantastic. This could not have gone better. So the idea behind this whole thing is that now with these two trapdoors above his head, he thinks he can pathfind away from and towards this block. And as you can see, he's kind of jumping up and down in that spot. He's fidgeting a little bit, but he's still in a 1x1 area, and he's still able to notice that this is a workstation he can use, and now we can start to re-roll his trades. So if we want a wheat trade and a bread trade, that's all great. We can keep the composter in front of him, but if we want to re-roll it, like so, it works every time. He turns back into a farmer. Now he's accepting beets and emeralds for bread as well. We can manipulate these trades a little bit, and they're still in the 1x1 trading areas. Thank you, Impulse SV, for demonstrating this so well on the Hermitcraft episode recently, because that has saved my bacon. And so now we can reopen Farmer's Row with a couple of librarians in the mix as well, and I can start refreshing these guys' trades if they've run out of, say, the bookshelf trade here, or any of the other trades that I'm after. Particularly, an emerald for 5 glass sounds really great right now. I need glass quite badly. So yeah, we're going to work a little bit on this today. I'm just going to swap out a bunch of the villagers' minecarts. We can get the minecarts back, hopefully. I can probably now walk into there, and yep, I've got the minecart through the corner of that block, which is good, because minecarts are worth 5 iron each. They don't come cheap. So, as I was saying, I'm going to spend a little bit of time off camera making sure that each of these traders can refresh their trades and they've got a profession block in front of them, and basically will be able to reopen the trading hall at that point. And while some of these 1.13 villagers, these legacy villagers, might not have such great trades compared to some of the newer villagers, I think we might be able to do something about that as well. Hey folks, welcome back. So after a lot of work, we have finally got each of these villagers assigned a profession and a workstation. Now, there are a few pieces of advice that I picked up during the course of making this that I wanted to pass on to you. For a start, begin by getting the professions for the novices figured out first, because occasionally, if you put down a workstation in front of one of these villagers who is already a master, and it looks like I missed the minecart from this one. Oh, there we go. Managed to get that back. Yeah, if you put down a profession workstation in front of a villager who is already a master, they don't necessarily need it to keep that profession. Whereas other villagers will actually claim that profession just because they can see the workstation block, even though they are not kind of the priority villager and it's not right there in front of them. So I had a little bit of an issue here and there. You'll notice that a couple of the workstations up here might be a little mismatched, although they seem to be working out okay for now, because a couple of my novices spotted workstations that I'd put down adjacent to them, or sometimes even like, you know, a few dozen blocks away. They would seem to pick up, like, yeah, this guy, for example. This one was a cartographer already. You'll notice he's an apprentice because I've traded with him before and unlocked a second trade, which is kind of weird, but it works for the upgraded villager. I put down the cartography table next to him, and this guy became a cartographer. This guy was already a cartographer, but it didn't matter. He didn't get priority for the workstation just because he was closer to it. So this guy became a novice cartographer, and even putting down a different workstation block in front of him, and that's the one that he has access to, that didn't turn him into a stonemason. And then the next one along, when I opened this up so that they had pathfinding ability out of the front here, this one became a stonemason immediately before I'd even put down this stonecutter. So I'd say work with the novices first and make sure that each of them has a profession before you move on to dealing with anybody who has already got a higher rank trade. Secondly, you will occasionally see their professions flickering a little bit, and that is a weird bug that's happening right now. I assume that's going to get fixed in the grand scheme of things, but it seems to be to do with whether or not they feel like they can pathfind out of here, and as a result, they are basically kind of switching on and off their profession based on the workstation. As you can see, yep, you might have heard that as well, a few of these villagers just refreshed their trades, meaning that the workstation that they're standing in front of is actually the workstation that they are using. But you do need to bear in mind that sometimes they might try and pathfind to other workstations, and if they can't get to those, their profession will kind of flicker on and off because they realize that they can't reach it, and they think, well, I should give up being a farmer if I can't get to the right composter. That happens occasionally, but by and large, they do seem to be keeping their trades. And of course, once we end up trading with them on a more permanent basis, yeah, that sort of happens over there right now. Look, take a look at this farmer over here. He's not sure if he wants to be a farmer, if he's not sure if this composter is really his. But then once we get a little bit closer, the librarian over here is doing the same thing. It's not just a visual bug, it seems to be a bug with the profession itself. I've walked up to them when they're doing that and right-clicked on them, and then they've shaken their head as if to say, I don't have a job. And then when I right-click on them again, they come back with trades. So there's a weird thing going on right now with these traders, and I'm fairly certain that they'll all keep their profession in time, especially once we trade them past the novice level, but even so, it's a little bit difficult to decide whether or not they are in front of the right workstation blocks or not. I haven't really been able to trade with enough of them yet to test whether or not they will refresh their trades, or if, say, this stonemason is looking at that stonecutter or vice versa. But in the grand scheme of things, if you were to fill up this trading hall from scratch in 1.14, this would be a setup whereby you could keep everybody's trades. You could actually do this one at a time, set up a bunch of novice villagers in here, and have them all adopt their professions thanks to the workstation blocks. And so it's actually managed to keep the trading hall that I had viable in 1.14 with only minor changes. You'll also notice that I've swapped out the redstone lamps that I had around the bottom of here in front of all of the villagers for lanterns, and that means that the area stays well lit at night, meaning that no mobs can potentially spawn inside of here that might end up attacking the villagers. Nothing can spawn in the same hitbox as the villagers, although they shouldn't have been able to do that anyway, but occasionally weird things like that will happen. And overall, the trading hall feels pretty cool with all of these workstations around here. Part of me really wishes that I'd had the the patience, I guess, to organize each of the rows by profession. That way, I could stand in the middle of this row of stonemasons if there weren't... See, this guy's got his workstation mixed up with that guy, and I wonder if I switch these two around now, if that's actually going to make sense for them. So if I pop the cartography table there, this guy doesn't become a cartographer again. No, he becomes a stonemason. Okay, good. So I think we might have got that miscommunication there figured out. But if I could stand in the middle of this row of stonemasons and just trade bricks to every single one down the line without there being two cartographers in the middle, that would be kind of nice. And then the next row could be weaponsmiths, and the next one could be librarians and farmers and that kind of thing. As it is, they're all sort of dotted around all over the place right now, but if you wanted to take a more organized approach to it, this whole wall could be clerics for trading rotten flesh and redstone and that kind of stuff. There are a couple of professions missing here, and they are the ones that I didn't really do a great deal of trading with before the update, so they are the villagers who lost their professions, like butchers, for example. I don't really need a butcher here because I don't have a great supply of raw meat to trade with him. I've got a couple of Fletchers who are Fletchers before the update because I was trading string to them. So this guy, as you can see, that one for some reason has an XP bar. This guy here, who was obviously here before the update as well, doesn't. So I'm not sure what's going on there. Just a kind of weird bug in between the 1.13 update and this one. But I have one shepherd in this entire trading hall. I have no butchers and I have no fishermen. We've only got one leather worker, a couple of Fletchers. Basically all of the rest are clerics, librarians, the blacksmith professions, and cartographers. And I kind of like it this way. The librarians and the cartographers are going to give us good paper trades. Librarians have other trades further down the line for ink and stuff as well. I think the stonemasons are going to be a fantastic addition with being able to get hold of some free bricks that way. And the farmers, some of whom have their original trades and some of whom have absolutely new trades, are going to be a great addition because crops are nice and easy to gather in large quantities. So let's talk about next steps as the sun goes down and the stars come out. I want to talk about what we can do with this place in terms of maximizing the trading potential, because as we've seen from the jungle village, curing zombie villagers gets you a very good reputation and means that the traders will give you a pretty huge discount once they have been able to gossip with each other and explain to each other that you're a nice person. And so I figure what we could do potentially is cure some zombie villagers around here and see how these villagers react. See if they actually have a chance to meet with each other and spread gossip if they are still in these one-by-one trading posts. And in order to do that, I think it might be a good idea to remove the note blocks from the middle here, and I don't think there are really any blocks that they can communicate through. I think if I put a trapdoor in there or a glass pane or something like that, they still wouldn't be able to talk through it. They would still register it as, blocking their line of sight to each other. But if we open that out a little bit, if we end up leaving the note blocks out of this design, it could potentially expose them to more harm. And I do want to make sure that baby zombies and stuff can't get up onto these trapdoors and in here, but I don't think they can. And if we take out the note blocks, they'll be able to gossip with each other. And then if we cure a zombie villager in full view of all of these villagers, they're all going to trade a massive amount of gossip to each other, explaining that I'm a nice guy who cures zombie villagers, and then they're going to give me big discounts on the trades. So I'm going to try and spend a bit of time off camera capturing a zombie villager and seeing if we can do that as an experiment. But I'm not going to do that today because I think we're probably done with this episode. It's been great to renovate the trading hall and update it for Minecraft 1.14. I think we can call this thing fixed. I'm going to do a bit of experimental trading to see if anyone is in a position where they can't refresh their trades. We might have to swap a couple of their booths around so that they're right next to the correct workstation, but in the grand scheme of things, I think we're going to work this out. So that's going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.